The envelope in my hands felt heavier than it should have been. Medical report. Confirmation. I was actually pregnant, and this wasn't just any ordinary pregnancy. Rare twin pregnancy. 2 babies. Juan's babies. My alpha boyfriend who still thought of me as nothing more than his temporary arrangement. After leaving the clinic, rain had started pouring down, but I barely felt the cold droplets hitting my skin. All I could think about was how I would tell Juan. Our relationship had always been complicated. Secret dates hidden from his social circle, late-night meetings in his penthouse where no one could see us, and he always kept saying, "Not in public yet." But now I had to tell him because this wasn't just about my life anymore. 2 tiny lives were growing inside me, and they deserved a proper family, stability, and a father who would actually claim them. When I walked into his office lobby, the receptionist recognized me immediately and gave me an awkward smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Everyone probably knew who I was. Juan's friend, the one who hi by after hours when the building was mostly empty. The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. Just me and my racing heartbeat echoing in the confined space. With each passing floor, my confidence cracked a little more, doubt creeping in like poison. But I forced myself to stay strong, keeping the medical report secure in my bag like precious evidence. However, when I reached his cabin door, I stopped dead in my tracks. Voices were coming from inside. Juan's voice, and someone else's. Feminine, sweet, flirtatious in a way that made my stomach turn. I pushed the door open slightly, just enough to see inside, and what I witnessed made my breath catch in my throat. Juan was standing in front of his desk, and facing him was an elegant female Omega, Sofia Romano, daughter of the media mogul. Juan was touching her hand gently, smiling at her like she was something precious and delicate that needed careful handling. His voice carried across the room clearly. "The engagement announcement next month will be perfect. Sofia, my father has been waiting for this. Business and family will both be settled in one move. Engagement." That single word pierced through my chest like a dagger made of ice and betrayal. My hands automatically moved to my stomach where my babies were. Juan's babies, and yet here he stood, planning his wedding to someone else like I didn't even exist. The medical report in my jacket pocket suddenly felt like evidence of my own stupidity, proof that I had been foolish enough to believe I mattered to him. I had thought that 3 years of being together meant something, that our relationship had value beyond the physical. But clearly I was just a pastime, someone to fill his lonely nights while his real life happened elsewhere without me. I stepped back quickly, terrified that if they saw me now, I would completely lose my composure and break down right there. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A message from Juan. "Where are you, Andrew? Dinner tonight at 8? Like nothing had just happened. Like he hadn't just been planning his future with another woman mere moments ago. The Omega inside me was screaming in agony, feeling the pain of a bond breaking that had never been officially formed in the first place. My mind, however, was crystal clear about one thing. I needed to leave this place. I needed to take my babies and disappear, alone, no matter what it took. The walk back to my apartment felt mechanical, like my body was moving on autopilot while my brain tried to process the devastation. Rain soaked through my clothes completely, but I didn't care enough to seek shelter. When I finally reached my small studio apartment, I stood in the doorway for a long moment, staring at the space that had been my home for the past 3 years. Everything here reminded me of Juan, the couch we had picked out together, the coffee maker he had bought me, even the blanket draped over the armchair was a gift from him. All of it felt tainted now, contaminated by the truth I had just discovered. I pulled out my phone and looked at Juan's message again, then at the dozens of other messages we had exchanged over the years. Sweet words, promises of someday, reassurances that we just needed airtime before going public. All lie. I had been so blind, so desperate to believe that he loved me the way I loved him. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, 1,000 angry words forming in my mind, but ultimately I didn't type any of them. What was the point? He had made his choice, and it wasn't me. It was never going to be me. Instead, I opened my laptop and started searching for apartments in other cities, places far enough away that Juan wouldn't accidentally run into me, where I could start fresh with my babies. Portland seemed promising. Seattle had opportunities, maybe even San Francisco. though the cost of living there would be challenging on my graphic designer salary. I bookmarked several listings, feeling a strange sense of calm settling over me as I made these plans. This was the right decision. My children deserved better than growing up as secrets, hidden away from their father's real life. That night, I lay in bed with my hand on my still flat stomach, talking quietly to the tiny lives growing inside me. I don't know how we're going to do this, I whispered into the darkness. But I promise you both, you will never feel unwanted. You will never be someone's secret or someone's shame. I will give you everything I have, and somehow we will be okay. The next morning, I called in sick to work and started the process of packing. I didn't have much. Most of my belongings could fit into a few suitcases and boxes. As I wrapped my dishes in newspaper, my phone rang. Juan's name flashed on the screen. I stared at it for 3 rings before declining the call. He called again and again. Each time, I let it go to voicemail. By the afternoon, the messages started coming. Andrew, why aren't you answering? Did something happen? Call me back, you're worrying me. The irony of that last message almost made me laugh. He was worried about me while planning his engagement to another woman. I spent 2 weeks in a strange limbo, packing during the day, crying at night, and ignoring Juan's increasingly frantic attempts to contact me. My morning sickness had started, making everything more difficult, but I pushed through it. I had already put down a deposit on an apartment in Seattle, given notice at my current place, and started applying for remote positions that would let me work from anywhere. Everything was falling into place for my escape. Just a few more days, and I would be gone from this city, from Juan, from all the painful memories. Just a few more days, and I could start building a real life for my babies, one where they would be loved and wanted from the very beginning. 2 weeks had passed since that horrible discovery in Juan's office, and I was methodically dismantling my entire existence in this city. My small apartment was now filled with cardboard boxes, clothes folded neatly, books wrapped carefully, kitchen utensils sorted into labeled containers. Everything was organized because moving to Seattle required precision and planning. Juan had continued his relentless attempts to reach me through calls and messages, but I maintained complete radio silence. Slowly ghosting him felt painful, like tearing off a bandage one microscopic piece at a time, but it was necessary for both me and my unborn children. I was sealing another box with packing tape when a sharp knock echoed through my apartment. My heart plummeted straight into my stomach. Juan had found me. This couldn't be happening. I wasn't emotionally prepared for a knot, when I was barely holding myself together as it was. But when I opened the door with trembling hands, the person standing there wasn't who I expected at all. Tall, dressed in an impeccably tailored business suit, with striking silver eyes that seemed to analyze everything in a single glance. Ray Romano, Juan's biggest business rival, the man whose company had been competing for the same contracts and clients for years. And more importantly, Sophia's older brother. Andrew Carter? His voice was deep, controlled, carrying an authority that made people instinctively pay attention. I nodded nervously, my throat too tight to form words. Yes, you're. He cut me off smoothly, his expression remaining completely unreadable like a professional poker player. I know exactly who you are. And I also know what you've been doing with my sister's future husband. Heat flooded my face, a mixture of embarrassment and defensive anger rising simultaneously. Look, if you came here to threaten me or create some kind of scandal. Threaten you? He almost smiled, though the expression never quite reached those calculating silver eyes. No, I came here to offer you something. His gaze moved past me into my apartment, taking in the half-packed boxes scattered everywhere, then returned to my face with what might have been approval. You're running away. Smart move considering your circumstances, but do you honestly believe Juan will just let you disappear without consequences? My breath hitched painfully in my chest. He doesn't even know that you're pregnant? With twin babies? Ray's eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made me feel completely exposed. Medical records have a way of leaking when you use the most expensive private clinic in the city. And when your boyfriend is about to marry my sister, I make it my business to investigate every potential complication thoroughly. I crossed my arms protectively over my chest, maternal instinct kicking in even though my pregnancy barely showed yet. What do you want from me? My voice came out more defensive than I intended. It's quite simple, Ray said, pulling out his phone and turning the screen toward me. Photos of Juan and Sophia together appeared, engagement party planning documents, venue bookings, guest lists that included some of the city's most influential people. Juan used you for whatever he needed until you became inconvenient. Now he's using my sister for her political connections and media influence. I intend to teach both of them a lesson about underestimating the Romano family. And where do I fit into your revenge scheme? I asked, already suspecting the answer would be something I wouldn't like. You come with me. Publicly become my partner. Give your children my name instead of his. My world tilted sideways for the third time in 2 weeks. Reality shifting beneath my feet. You're insane. I'm practical, he corrected firmly, his tone brooking no argument. You need protection from one's inevitable legal pursuit, financial security for yourself and 2 infants, and an escape route from this entire mess. I can provide all of that. In exchange, Juan gets to watch his perfect life crumble apart, destroyed by my hand. It's poetic justice. I studied him carefully. This stranger who somehow knew my entire situation, who was offering me a deal like I was some kind of business transaction to be negotiated. But there was something else in his eyes too, something beyond cold calculation, something almost possessive, dangerous. Is this purely revenge for you? Me and my babies are just tools? I whispered, needing honesty even if it hurt. Ray reached out and lightly grasped my wrist, his touch surprisingly gentle despite his intimidating presence, and placed my hand on the medical report I had left on the side table. For now, yes, revenge is a significant factor in my motivation, but Andrew, he tilted my chin up with his other hand, forcing direct eye contact that felt uncomfortably intimate. When I claim something, I protect it fully and completely. Juan will never lay a hand on you or your children. That's my promise. And I never break my promises. The weight of his words settled over me like a heavy blanket. I didn't have many options left, and perhaps that was the most frightening part. Ray Romano's offer actually made logical sense. Why should I trust you? I challenged, trying to find some solid ground in this surreal conversation. You shouldn't trust me blindly, he admitted with brutal honesty. But consider your alternatives carefully. You can run to Seattle alone, work yourself exhausted trying to support twins on a graphic designer's salary, constantly looking over your shoulder wondering when Juan will find you. Or you can accept my protection, give your children every advantage, and make Juan regret ever treating you as disposable. I looked around my apartment, at the boxes containing my entire life, at the future I had been trying to build through sheer determination alone. Then I looked back at Ray Romano, this dangerous man offering me an alliance that could either save me or destroy me completely. If I agree to this arrangement, I need guarantees, legal documentation. My children's welfare comes first, above your revenge and above everything else. Something flickered in Ray's expression, respect maybe, or approval. I'll have my lawyers draft a contract by tomorrow morning. Everything will be legal and binding. Your children will be protected regardless of what happens between us. Fine, I heard myself saying, the word leaving my mouth before I could second-guess the decision. I'll do it, but if you betray me the way Juan did, I won't, Ray interrupted, his voice carrying absolute certainty. Juan is weak, ruled by what other people think of him. I don't have that particular weakness. He pulled out a business card and handed it to me. Pack what matters to you. My people will handle the rest and arrange the move to my penthouse. We start the public relationship tomorrow. There's a charity gala that will serve perfectly for our first appearance together. After he left, I sank onto my couch, still holding his business card. What had I just agreed to? I had escaped one complicated relationship with an alpha only to voluntarily enter another arrangement that was possibly even more dangerous. But as I placed my hand on my stomach, feeling the slight flutter that might have been my imagination or might have been early movement, I knew I would do whatever necessary to protect these babies. Even if it meant making a deal with someone as calculating and ruthless as Ray Romano, even if it meant using myself as a weapon in someone else's revenge plot. My children deserved better than being Juan's dirty secret, and if Ray could provide that, then I would play my part in this dangerous game. Ray's penthouse was the complete opposite of Juan's space in every conceivable way. Where Juan favored warm woods and comfortable clutter, Ray's home was all clean lines and modern minimalism, cold aesthetics that somehow managed to look sophisticated rather than sterile. But the room he had assigned specifically for me contradicted the rest of the penthouse entirely. It was surprisingly warm with soft, neutral colors, comfortable furniture that looked actually lived in, and an adjoining nursery that was already being set up with cribs, changing tables, and carefully arranged soft toys in gentle pastels. "Are you comfortable here?" Ray asked from the doorway, loosening his tie after what had apparently been a long day at the office. I stood next to my suitcase, feeling overwhelmed by how quickly my circumstances had changed. "How did you arrange all of this so fast? When you have resources, you use them efficiently," he said casually, though his gaze had dropped to my midsection where my pregnancy was still hidden under loose clothing. He noticed everything I was learning. Every small detail registered in that analytical mind of his. The first week of our arrangement passed in mostly silence. Ray left early for the office each morning, and I stayed at the penthouse resting and occasionally running errands with his driver. We were both settling into a routine that was awkward but functional, like two strangers forced to share space learning each other's boundaries. Ray never asked invasive personal questions, and I was grateful for that space to process everything that had happened. But then the carefully orchestrated media leak occurred. Deliberate and calculated down to the last detail. The photo appeared on every major gossip site and social media platform simultaneously. Me and Ray at an upscale restaurant, his hand resting protectively on my lower back in a gesture that looked intimate and possessive. The headline read, "Ray Romano's Mystery Omega, Juan Morrison's X surfaces with rival CEO." Social media absolutely exploded with speculation, theories, and commentary. My phone became a constant stream of notifications that I couldn't escape. Juan's messages came in relentlessly, calls that I didn't answer, voice messages that grew increasingly desperate and angry. "Andrew, what the hell is this? You're with Ray? Of all people? Answer your phone right now. This is ridiculous. Talk to me." I didn't reply to any of them, but my body was reacting in ways I couldn't control. My Omega instincts were completely confused because Juan was technically still my alpha biologically. The connection between us remained faint but present despite everything he had done, and hearing his voice even through voicemail caused physical discomfort that bordered on actual pain. Ray came home that evening and found me curled up on the couch, my phone silenced but the notification light still flashing incessantly. He removed his coat methodically and sat down beside me, closer than he usually positioned himself. "Blocking his number would solve this problem easily, you know," Ray suggested with practical logic. "I can't," I admitted, my voice shaking with emotion I was trying to suppress. The Omega bond partially formed with Juan. Even just hearing his voice makes my body physically react. And I react. Ray finished for me, his tone surprisingly understanding rather than dismissive. "I'm aware of how biology works. Sometimes our bodies respond regardless of what our minds want." He took my phone from my trembling hands and dialed a number. "His personal physician, Dr. Hayes? Yes. I need a prescription filled immediately. Bond suppressants. The strongest formulation available that's safe during pregnancy." When he ended the call, I really looked at him for the first time since moving in. Actually studied his features properly. "Why are you doing so much for me? This goes beyond our business arrangement." Ray met my gaze directly, his expression difficult to read but with something softer flickering beneath the surface. "Because when I commit to something, I don't do it halfway. You accepted my offer. That makes you my responsibility now. Your children are my responsibility. This is just about hurting Juan," I whispered, testing to see if he would admit the truth. Ray leaned back against the couch, a slight smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "Initially, absolutely. Revenge is incredibly satisfying. But Andrew," he reached for my hand, his thumb tracing across my knuckles slowly and deliberately. "You're more interesting than I anticipated. And these babies," his hand moved hesitantly to rest on my belly, "they deserve a stable home. A real father who actually wants them, who claims them proudly." My throat tightened with emotion hearing those words. For the first time, someone had actually called my children wanted, genuinely desired rather than treated as an inconvenient complication. "I won't use you the way Juan did," Ray continued, his voice firm but somehow gentle at the same time. But I do expect you to fulfill your role in this arrangement. Public appearances when necessary, attending events with me. And when the time comes, he paused, gauging my reaction carefully. When the babies are born, they need my name legally. Official adoption. Everything proper and permanent. I nodded slowly, beginning to understand that this arrangement might actually be the best option for my children's future. Juan had never offered me security or stability. Ray represented something different entirely. There are conditions I need established, I said, finding my voice. I want regular updates about everything. No surprises. And my children's well-being comes before your revenge plans. If there's ever a conflict, they win. Agreed, Ray said without hesitation. I'll have the contract amended to reflect those terms explicitly. He stood and offered me his hand. Come, you haven't eaten properly today, and skipping meals isn't good for the babies. The casual way he referred to my pregnancy, our arrangement as if it was already established fact rather than a temporary business deal, made something shift inside my chest. Maybe this could actually work. Maybe I had made the right choice after all. That night, as I lay in bed in the room Ray had prepared for me, I placed both hands on my stomach and whispered to my babies. Things are different now, complicated, but I think we might actually be safe here. Ray isn't Juan. He's colder, more calculating, but he keeps his promises, and maybe that's what we need right now. Someone reliable even if the reasons aren't perfect. Through the wall I could hear Ray moving around in his own room, getting ready for bed. This strange new life I had entered was nothing like what I had imagined for myself. But as my babies fluttered inside me, stronger now, more noticeable, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope, tentative and fragile, but real nonetheless. Perhaps running into Ray Romano's arms, even if those arms were motivated by revenge, was exactly what my children and I needed. Only time would reveal whether this gamble would save us or destroy us completely. 2 more months had slipped by, and my pregnancy was now impossible to hide. My belly showed prominently beneath every outfit I wore, announcing the twins growing inside me to anyone who looked. Ray had kept every promise he made, taking me to every major event without the slightest hesitation. Charity galas filled with the city's elite, business dinners where million-dollar deals were finalized over expensive wine, and now the most painful event of all, Sophia and Juan's pre-engagement party. You don't have to go inside, I told Ray as we sat in his car outside the venue, my heart racing with anxiety I couldn't quite suppress. Ray reached over and took my hand. These small gestures of comfort had become normal between us, familiar in a way that surprised me. I'm not leaving you alone to face this. Besides, a devilish smile crossed his face. I want to see Juan's expression when he sees you with me. Pregnant, radiant, completely beyond his reach now. The moment we entered the hall, every eye turned toward us. Whispers started immediately, spreading through the crowd like wildfire. My hand rested naturally on Ray's arm, and his hand settled possessively on my lower back. A claiming gesture that left no room for misinterpretation. I could feel the stares, the judgment, the curiosity burning from every direction, but Ray remained completely unfazed, confident and composed, as though we were simply taking an evening stroll rather than walking into the lion's den. Then I saw him. Juan stood near the bar with a glass in his hand, and when his gaze landed on me, specifically on my visible baby bump, he nearly dropped the glass entirely. His face went pale for just a second before color flooded back in a mixture of shock and something that looked almost like pain. Sophia stood beside him, oblivious and happy, chatting with guests about wedding plans and honeymoon destinations. Juan started moving toward us with determined steps, but Ray pulled me closer protectively. Stay calm, Ray whispered near my ear, his breath warm against my skin. Let him approach. Let him see exactly what he threw away. Andrew. Juan's voice was strained when he reached us, barely controlling his tone in such a public setting. We need to talk. Privately. Now. Ray intervened smoothly before I could respond, this voice polite but carrying a sharp edge underneath. I don't think that's appropriate here, Morrison. This is your engagement celebration, remember? You should focus on your future wife. Juan glared at Ray with undisguised hostility before turning his desperate gaze back to me. You're actually pregnant? When did this How long have you? His eyes dropped to my belly again, and the timeline must have clicked into place in his mind. Yes, I'm pregnant, I confirmed, gathering my composure despite my racing pulse. Juan's jaw tightened visibly, his fists clenching at his sides. And these children, they're mine, aren't they? You can't deny biology. The question was bold, asked directly in this public space where anyone could overhear. Ray answered before I had the chance, his voice firm and leaving absolutely no room for argument. They're mine, legally, officially, in every way that matters. Andrew and his children are under my protection, permanently. Juan's face flushed red, anger and humiliation mixing in equal measure. You're lying. Andrew, is this true? Did you really give my children to him? Something inside me snapped at those words. Months of accumulated pain rose to the surface like a tidal wave I could no longer contain. Your children, my voice came out low but venomous. You're the man who kept me as a secret like I was something shameful. You planned your engagement while I was carrying these babies. You never claimed me. Juan, not once. So don't you dare claim them now. Ray's arm tightened around my waist. Silent support and agreement. Juan stood there speechless, shock and anger clearly written across his features. Sophia began approaching us, confusion evident on her face as she took in the tense scene. Juan, is everything all right? Who are these people? Ray smiled smoothly, his composure absolutely perfect. Everything is fine. We were just congratulating the happy couple. Andrew and I will be parents soon as well. Twins, actually. Sophia's smile faltered slightly. Perhaps something was connecting in her mind about the timeline and her brother's sudden interest in her fiancé's personal life. Juan's expression showed devastation. He couldn't quite hide, but there was nothing he could do in such a public venue surrounded by influential guests and media. Ray gently guided me toward the exit, protective and possessive, and as we settled into the car, I realized something important. This had been closure, painful and public, but absolutely necessary for moving forward. During the drive back to the penthouse, neither of us spoke. Ray kept one hand on the steering wheel and the other resting gently on my knee, a grounding touch that kept me from spiraling into the emotional chaos, threatening to overwhelm me. When we finally arrived home, I collapsed onto the couch, exhausted emotionally and physically. Ray sat beside me, closer than usual, and I found myself leaning into his solid presence. Thank you, I whispered into the silence, for standing with me tonight, for not making me face him alone. Ray turned to look at me, his silver eyes intense in the dim lighting. You never have to thank me for that. Protecting you isn't a favor, Andrew. It's what I've committed to doing. His hand moved to my belly, feeling the babies moving beneath his palm. They're active tonight. They always are after I get stressed, I admitted. I think they can sense my emotions somehow. Ray's expression softened in a way I'd rarely seen. Then we'll have to make sure you stay calm and happy from now on. No more unnecessary stress. No more Juan. The way he said it, like a promise he intended to keep, made something warm bloom in my chest. This arrangement between us was beginning to feel less like a business transaction and more like something real, something solid I could actually depend on. Ray, I started, then hesitated. What happens after the babies are born? After Juan isn't a threat anymore? Does our arrangement end then? He studied my face for a long moment before answering. Is that what you want? For this to end? The question caught me off guard. I don't know what I want anymore, I admitted honestly. Everything is so complicated. Ray nodded slowly, understanding crossing his features. Then let's take it one day at a time. Focus on keeping you and the babies healthy. Everything else can wait. As I headed to bed that night, I caught sight of myself in the mirror, truly looked at the person staring back at me. Pregnant, protected by a man who had started as a stranger with a revenge feck, and somehow finding stability in the midst of chaos. My life had transformed completely from what I'd imagined it would be, but standing here now, I couldn't bring myself to regret the choices that had led me to this point. Ray was proving to be more than I'd expected, more attentive, more reliable, more present than Juan had ever been, and that realization was both comforting and terrifying in equal measure. The arrival of my babies was now only weeks away. The doctor had confirmed during our last appointment that the twins were healthy and delivery was scheduled for next month. My body had completely transformed. Heavy, constantly tired, riding an emotional roller coaster that left me laughing one moment and crying the next. Ray had been surprisingly attentive through it all, never missing a doctor's appointment regardless of how important his business meetings were, fulfilling my bizarre cravings even when they struck at 2 in the morning, and sitting with me in the kitchen late at night when discomfort made sleep impossible. These small moments were unexpectedly intimate, slowly transforming our arrangement into something neither of us had quite anticipated. One particularly difficult night, I was attempting to massage my swollen feet on the couch when Ray gently moved my hands aside and took over the task himself. His skilled fingers applied perfect pressure, providing relief I'd been desperately seeking. "You do so much for me," I said softly, allowing my vulnerability to show. None of this was in our original contract. Ray looked up at me, his hands continuing their rhythmic work on my feet. "Andrew, when I told you I protect what I claim, I wasn't just talking about the babies." My breath caught in my throat. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, the first time I'd ever seen Ray Romano look uncertain or vulnerable. "This arrangement started as revenge. You know that, but now," his hand moved from my foot to my belly, feeling the babies moving actively beneath his touch. "Now I don't want to lose you. Or them. This has become real for me in ways I didn't anticipate." My eyes widened at this confession. "Ray," he quickly added, defensive walls rising slightly, "I'm not asking you to love me right now. I know your heart still hurts over Juan sometimes. The bond suppressants help physically, but emotionally these things take time. But Andrew, give me time. Give us time. I'll prove I'm better than him. That this can be more than just a business arrangement." After that confession, something subtle shifted in our relationship. Ray became more open, sharing stories about his past, his father's crushing pressure regarding the business empire, his complicated attempts to protect Sophia despite their difficult family dynamics. And I found myself changing too, my feelings gradually evolving. One had become a painful memory that was slowly fading, while Ray felt increasingly real, present, solid, and dependable in ways that mattered. But Juan refused to give up easily. He never fully let go. One afternoon, while Ray was trapped in an important business meeting, Juan appeared at the penthouse, somehow convincing or bribing security to grant him access. "Andrew, please," he begged through the intercom desperately, "just talk to me face to face. One conversation. I deserve at least that much." Against my better judgment, whether from stupidity, a need for closure, or foolish hope, I let him inside. Juan entered looking genuinely broken for the first time. Disheveled clothing, dark circles under his eyes suggesting sleep deprivation, hair uncombed. I messed everything up completely. "I know that now." "Yes," I agreed simply, keeping my voice emotionless. "You did." He moved closer, desperation clear in every movement. "The engagement with Sophia was initially just a business arrangement. My heart was never genuinely in it. Only with you. It still is. I'm going crazy without you in my life." He reached toward my belly, but I stepped back instinctively. "These babies are mine biologically, Andrew. My DNA. You can't change that legal fact." I remained calm despite my racing heart. "I can't change biology. But these children deserve love, stability, and commitment. You never gave me those things when I needed them most. When I asked for emotional support, you created distance instead." Juan's desperation intensified. "But I'll give it now. I'll leave Sophia immediately. Cancel the engagement. Give up everything. Just come back to me. Please." At that exact moment, the door burst open forcefully. Ray stood there, his eyes fixed on Juan with deadly calm, though rage simmered clearly underneath the surface. "Get out. Now." Juan foolishly challenged him, refusing to back down. "These are my children, biologically mine. I can prove it in court." Ray's voice turned dangerous. "Biology means nothing. I'm the one who attended every doctor visit with Andrew, every ultrasound, every complication. I set up their nursery, bought their clothes, planned their future. I stayed awake all night when he couldn't sleep, when he was in pain. You treated him like trash when you found out. So stop this biological connection drama immediately." Ray physically grabbed Juan and escorted him out, literally removed him from the penthouse. I'd been terrified the confrontation would escalate violently, but Ray maintained control over his anger impressively. When he returned, I was crying, a mixture of hormones, fear, relief, and gratitude overwhelming me completely. Ray pulled me into his arms without hesitation, holding me protectively and warmly. "You're safe. You always will be. I promise you that." After that incident, Ray doubled security, ensuring Juan couldn't easily access the building again. But the stress affected me physically. The next morning, I woke to sharp cramping that frightened me. Ray immediately called the fare to come to the penthouse. Doc Hayes examined me thoroughly, concern evident on his face. "Your blood pressure is dangerously high due to stress. Andrew needs complete bed rest for the next few weeks. No tension, no stress. Absolutely nothing that could compromise the pregnancy." Ray didn't go to the office that day. Instead, he worked from my room with his laptop, ensuring I never felt alone. "You don't have to do this," I said weakly. He looked at me with absolute seriousness. "Yes, I do, because if something happens to you or these babies because of stress, I could never forgive myself." 2 weeks of strict bed rest passed slowly. Then one night, I woke suddenly in sharp pain, contractions that shouldn't be happening yet according to my due date. Ray rushed me to the hospital immediately, holding my hand throughout the entire frantic drive. "Everything will be fine. I'm right here with you." At the hospital, doctors quickly decided an emergency cesarean section was necessary because one baby was in breech position and stress had triggered early labor. I was terrified of surgery, potential complications, all the things that could go wrong. Nurses later told me Ray paced outside the operating theater the entire time, visibly anxious despite his usual composed demeanor. When I regained consciousness in recovery and felt 2 small bundles carefully placed on my chest, one boy, one girl, my heart felt complete for the first time in my entire life. Tiny fingers, impossibly soft skin, gentle breathing. Ray stood beside me with tears in his eyes that he tried unsuccessfully to hide. "They're absolutely perfect, just like you. Beautiful." I laughed and cried simultaneously, completely overwhelmed by emotion. "You stayed here all night waiting?" He gently kissed my hand. "Where else would I be? This is my family, my responsibility, my everything." After discharge from the hospital, Ray brought me and the babies home, but not just to our assigned room. He settled us in his master bedroom instead, with the nursery connecting directly so we could hear the babies easily. "Ray, this is..." He interrupted firmly, leaving no room for arguments. "This is where you belong. I'm done pretending this is merely an arrangement. I love you, Andrew. You, the babies, all of it. I want to make this official, permanent." Hearing those words made everything suddenly feel real in a way it hadn't before. "Me too," I confessed as tears flowed freely down my face. "I love you too. You've given me everything Juan never could." Ray kissed me then. Soft, deep, filled with promises of forever. Our first real kiss as an actual couple rather than 2 people playing roles. But Juan still lurked in the background legally. A notice arrived 1 week later, demanding a paternity test, claiming custody rights, requesting visitation. Ray's lawyers were powerful and experienced, but Juan was technically the biological father, meaning court battles could drag on for months in emotionally draining proceedings. Time passed in a blur. Hearings, depositions, constant stress eating at both of us. Then, unexpectedly, one afternoon, Juan appeared at Ray's office, without lawyers, without any apparent agenda. "I'm giving up, surrendering completely." Both Ray and I stared at him in shock. Juan looked directly at me, his voice defeated. "I've watched you in that courtroom during every single hearing. The way you look at Ray with complete trust and love. And the way he looks at you and those babies like you're his entire world. I could never give you that genuinely. I was just trying to satisfy my own ego." Right there in front of us, he signed adoption papers, voluntarily terminating all parental rights without being forced. "These children deserve a better father than I could ever be. And you deserve to be happy with Ray." This was closure, painful but necessary, finally bringing everything to an end. 1 year later, I watched my children Mira and Caden playing in the park, giggling and running with the boundless energy only toddlers possess. Ray sat beside me on the bench, his arm around my shoulders naturally and comfortably. Did you ever imagine everything would turn out this perfectly? I asked, leaning into his warmth. Ray answered honestly while watching our children play. No, I didn't, but I'm grateful every single day. For you, for them, for this family we built together, for everything we overcame as a team. He kissed me tenderly, and I knew with absolute certainty this story had begun with revenge, pain, and betrayal. But it ended with genuine love, a real family, and authentic happiness that we had earned and deserved. I wouldn't change any of it for anything in the world. This was my story, our story, and it was absolutely perfect exactly as it was. The twins noticed us watching and ran over, climbing onto the bench between us with excited chatter about the ducks they'd seen by the pond. Mira grabbed my hand while Caden reached for Ray, and in that simple moment, I understood what family truly meant. Not biology or legal documents or societal expectations, but choice. Ray had chosen us when he didn't have to. He had chosen to be present, to be committed, to be the father my children needed. Papa, come see the ducks, Caden insisted, tugging on Ray's sleeve with determination. Ray stood immediately, scooping Caden into his arms with practiced ease. Lead the way, but he extended his other hand to help me up, and Mira grabbed my free hand, creating a connected chain as we walked toward the pond together. As we stood there feeding breadcrumbs to enthusiastic ducks, I caught Ray's eye over the children's heads. He smiled at me, not the calculated smile he used in business meetings or the polite smile he gave to acquaintances, but the genuine smile reserved only for us. In that smile, I saw our entire journey reflected. The pain that had brought us together, the arrangement that had protected us, the gradual transformation into something neither of us had planned, but both of us needed. Later that evening, after the twins were bathed and tucked into bed with their favorite stuffed animals, Ray and I sat together in the living room. He pulled out a small velvet box I hadn't noticed him carrying. I know we've done everything backwards, he said, opening it to reveal a simple but elegant ring. Started with the arrangement, had the babies, built the life, but I want to do this part right. Andrew Carter, will you marry me? Not for revenge or protection or business, but because I genuinely cannot imagine my life without you in it. My vision blurred with tears as I nodded, unable to form words through the emotion blocking my throat. Ray slipped the ring onto my finger and it fit perfectly, just like everything else about us had somehow aligned despite the chaotic beginning. Yes, I finally managed to whisper 1,000 times yes. As we sat there together, planning a future that was now truly ours to create, I thought about how far I'd come from that terrified Omega standing outside Juan's office, clutching a pregnancy test and wondering how to. I had survived. More than that, I had thrived, found strength I didn't know I possessed, built a family from the ashes of betrayal, and discovered that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Ray pulled me closer and I rested my head on his shoulder, feeling completely at peace for the first time in longer than I could remember. Our story wasn't conventional or traditional, but it was ours, built on honesty, commitment, and the conscious choice to be better than our circumstances demanded. And that made it more valuable than any fairy tale romance could ever be. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars against the darkening sky. Inside, our children slept peacefully in rooms filled with love and security. And here, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. Perfect not because it was easy or simple, but because it was real. Because we had fought for it, worked for it, and chosen it deliberately every single day. This was our happy ending and simultaneously our beautiful beginning.